And the next section, then we're going to talk about column and row manipulation. How do we manipulate columns and rows? So the commands we're talking about is this column command. So it's another method of an object to identify specific columns or rows. You can also say column here. You can put numbers in here for the rows, of course. So EE or just E itself, doesn't matter. If you want to do a range of rows, you put the full letter in there. Here's your row command. So you can use that as an object to identify those rows and then delete them. Now here we're going to look at the, this is a row property. This is the object, and this is the property right here. So we were just looking at the objects a minute ago. This is a property command to extract the row or the column of wherever you're physically at, wherever your physical row or column is. So there's another one for the range. There's another range command. All right, so let's see what we have down here. We'll just kind of apply these. So we open a blank workbook. It says create a subroutine using the following commands. The rows object. So you want to select some rows, select some columns. And then we can also use the row this way to determine where the active cell is when we're all done. Okay, so we're just going to go through and select a couple of rows or columns. That's all we're going to do. And here's where you can extract that. Wherever you're physically at, we can find out where we are from a row or column perspective. All right, so we're going to flip a blank sheet. And we'll just, if you need to refer back to that, you can. I'm going to close this sheet out just to use the number of things I have to have open. And I'll close this one too, I guess. And we're going to open up a blank sheet. And this is going to be book 2. So we're going to go through and just select columns or rows using these commands. So we're going to go over to Visual Basic. Look for this blank 2 or this column, book 2, there it is. Insert a module. And we're going to simply say we want to select sub, select row and column. So just RC. And then we can simply use our columns command, columns, and I can say double quote about C colon E, double quote, close, dot select. And then we can do our rows. And we're going to put a 3, 2, 6, quote, dot select. And then we're going to do our third command, which is these are the object commands here. Now we're going to use an active cell. So we're going to MSG box. And we can simply put in here the active cell dot, I think it's this row. You can look at that and see here and see what it looks like. So here's my active cell row. It's this row. Row and column. So it's going to pull that value out wherever the active cell is and tell me what row it's on. So we can simply run this. There's my first selection. There's my select columns. There's my rows. And there's my active cell, row number 3. So wherever, see, it showed me that it was selecting here. This is the top cell of the selected area. And that's what it pulls. That's what to pull the answer. If you had a specific cell selected, then it would tell you what cell you're physically on. So you can use that command to figure out where you're at and maybe use it to go back to it or something like that. Or maybe you can kind of identify that and say wherever the person started is where I'm going to take them back to whenever they're done. So you can do something like that too. That's a little bit of testing of these particular values. And we might use those to manipulate things. It looks like you can also do an entire row select. So you click select A5. I use the command called entire row dot select. And so wherever A5 is, it's going to do that whole row. That's another command you could use. Offset.
When would you ever use that?
If you want to do like column manipulation, like you want to just select the entire, say I want to format the entire column, you know, a certain way, like if I have some, I don't know how much information I have, so I would just select the entire column or the entire row and then format it accordingly. So I could use the code here to actually put in, instead of select, or I could use select, or I can go to directly, but I could come along here and it says format, I say active selection.
I understand that part, but what about the message box to tell you which row you're on? When would you ever need that?
You could use that to kind of identify where you were in the beginning. Like for example, if you put your cursor right here, for example, see that? Maybe I can record this position. I can record that this is on so many rows and so many columns, right? So
like where you left off?
So after I do all this, when I'm all done, I want to go back to where the individual started. Like they never, they did all this work, but it remembers where we would go back to. And you can also use it for manipulating the entire column or row. So in that case, I can say, if I want to select this row right here, then I can simply say, well, what's the active cell? What's the active cell row number? That's what I want to actually grab. Let me see if I can get that, do that real quick. Like, so here I can say, instead of saying C to E, okay, I can simply say, I can put in here active cell dot column. So there's that. Okay, and so what I'm saying is, which column am I going to choose? See, I don't know, I'm not sure if that's going to work or not. We'll see. And we're going to select wherever the active cell is. So it should select B. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not because it's looking for the actual, the B through D, and I don't think it might work. So we might have to put in like the cells command. But I'll check it out to see if it's going to work first. So if I click here, and so wherever you select is where you're going to actually format, or you're going to do something with. So I come out here and I run it again, I can simply say, so now I want to do wherever the active cell is, that's what I want to select. So select it.
I see.
Something like that, you know, I mean, so you might identify it by clicking somewhere. You know, if you selected the whole thing like this, then you can say, well, whatever selected you might have, but they may not do that. What if they select it like this or something like this, and they don't select the whole column? But see, with this command, you can actually select the entire column, make sure that it's going to get selected. See? All right?
I see.
So
yeah, I think I'm a little bit confused about what row 3, column 6, what that means. I thought it was, I might need a refresher or something.
Column 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Or like what it is on Visual Basics.
What is the command for it? It's called the cells command.
Can you click your Visual Basics?
Yeah, it's the cell command.
So yeah, rows 3, 6.
Yeah. Oh, rows 3 through 6? That's just these numbers here. That's these numbers here.
So I don't understand like why that function is there.
Because these are letters on top,
Yeah.
And these are numbers on the side. So you can't use letters, you have to use numbers. And so the numbers are, see, so I'm selecting rows 3 through 6. Number 3 through column 6. These 3 here, see it?
But does that really matter when you're trying to figure out where your active person
No,
is?
you don't. They're 2 different commands. They're 2 different commands.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
2 different commands. This is
Oh, I
just
thought
a
it had to be
command.
like in the, okay.
2 different commands.
Got
They're,
it.
they're kind of related because it's rows, columns, you know, type thing. So I just sort of put them together.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we're getting a little complicated now on this. So this is where it really starts becoming really fun. I guess fun in my mind, I guess. But this is where we can start looking at large databases and start actually putting things into databases in the right positions. So we talked about the offset property before, and the offset property is basically row column. See, it's row column. So it's going to look at the row first, and then it's look at the column second. And if you want to go down 1, you would say a 3. So if I want to go down 1, I'd say 1, 0. That goes down 1 row. If I want to go to the right 1, then I would say 0, 1, because it goes to the right 1. Now, if I want to go backwards, I want to go up, then I would have a -1 in here. So that's where I have a -1. See, the -1, 3, 2 offsets up 3 cells and to the left 2 cells. So sometimes we get this kind of confused, but you just have to remember row column and you'll remember it. So that's the offset property, and we use that quite a bit. So this says B1 offset. So what this is going to do is it's going to put the answer not in B1, but the one to the right of it. It's going to put this text to the right of B1. So it's going to offset by 1 to the right, and it's going to put the text in. Okay, so here's B1 here. Let's put the text over here. All right, and then we'll go through and do here's a couple of offsets in here. To the octave cell and offset by 1. And we jump around that way. Now the xlDown is that same command that we were using before, which is the Control-Shift down arrow. And that will actually move down to the bottom. So this here I'm basically saying go to A1. Now we have to use this different style, remember that? So I want to go from A1 to, I don't know where I want to go because I don't know where the bottom is. So I'm going to basically say go to the range A3, go down to the bottom, and select the very last cell on the bottom. That's what that's going to do. And it's going to format it to be purple. And we'll go through these offsets and these xlDowns in a minute. Run through a few things on this. Here's the current region. So this would be current region.copy. So it just takes the current region, and that's a Control A. So if you're in the middle of your data and you say Control A, then it's going to identify the current region, wherever that is. Okay, and then we have an address property down here where it extracts the actual physical address of the information. Okay, so let's do a couple of these, couple examples here, and then we'll go through and run through a little practice exercise. Okay, so here we are. So it says to open up a file called format, and we can look at that. File open, and we're going to open up format, and looks like we were doing some stuff with this, you say. So what I want to do is I want to identify where the bottom is here. So I want to say go to the bottom and then go down 1 cell and put the information below it. We're going to use the xlDown to look for the bottom. There's the bottom. And we're going to use the offset to offset by 1 and put the answer in here. So that's what we're looking for. So let's go back and look at VB. And this is your format sheet. Looks like we were doing some stuff in here earlier. Okay, so this is going to actually go through and find the bottom of this, and let's go find the code that we can match, so we just have to make it up. Okay, so we're looking for the xlDown capability to find the bottom cell, and then we're going to offset by 1. So that one, somewhere else. Here's the xlDown. So here it says go to range A1, and then go to range A. You can use A1 or A3, it doesn't really matter here. And then go to the xlDown and select it. So we're going to select the range at the bottom from cell A1 to the one on the bottom. And we're going to format that to be purple. So I can cut this code out if you want. I just cut the whole thing out like this. And we're going to be doing a lot more cutting and pasting in the next little while. So I'm going to come down to this sheet and paste this in here. So now that's going to simply say, go to range A1, from A1 to range A3, but then go to the bottom of A3, wherever the bottom is of A3, and select it. And then we're going to format it. So we're going to say, okay, so that's going to select from A1 to the bottom of A3. See, it selected them all. How did it know the bottom here? Because we told it, find the end of A3, wherever A3 stops. And it's selected.
Does it have to be A3 though? Can't you do the bottom of A1?
It could be A1. It could be anywhere in there. It could be A1, A2, A5. It can't be A8 though, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because A8 is already out of the range. But yeah, it could be A1 here. If you wanted that to be A1, you could do that too.
Okay.
Anyway, doesn't matter. That's just how I wrote it. And then it's going to format to be purple. And it's purple. That's it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use that same code to find this particular cell right here. And then we're going to go down 1, offset by 1, and we're going to type in some stuff in here like this, okay? I'll call it, to say the word end or something like that. So we can come over here first and just go to, in this case, I can use the same information here. I want to say, I don't want to say go to range A1. I want to go to this range here. So if I just select it like this, okay? So I'm going to simply say range A1, range, this will find the cell A7, see it? So it just says go to the bottom and select the last cell on the bottom. So let me just run that so you see that actually works. So now that should select cells A7. It didn't. So let me find out what happened. That's what happened here. So A1, oh, we got a couple parentheses here. So I have to go from, right, this is what's in the middle. Nope, that does have, supposed to have that there, I think. Maybe not. I think we have a double range in here. So maybe we just need it like this. So range A1 dot xln, that will work. Let's try it again. So now it says go to A1 and find the very last cell of that range and select it. Did it, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to say whatever selected is we want to go down 1 and type something in there. Okay, so I'll say right here, I'll say selection, whatever selected, okay? Or I could even say active cell, that would work too. So I can say active cell, which is, at this point, it's A7, correct? Dot, now we want to go down 1 cell. So we're going to simply say active cell offset, and we're going to put a 1, 0. We're going to come down 1, right? dot value is equal to. So what that's going to do is you're going to put something in that cell, but you're not going to put it in the active cell. You're going to put it in the one below it. But I don't know where the bottom is. It could be thousands of lines long, see? So I just don't know where it is. We could put the word in.
You need to change it to a comma. 1, 0.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 1 comma. And then I could, at that point, I could also say, if I want to, now that I know this works, let me go and do one more thing here. I'm going to go to A1, go to the end, dot, and I can say offset 1, 0. That's the same thing you just did a minute ago, correct? But what I want to do is I want to format that to be font interior. Interior dot color equals RGB red. So what I'm saying here is I'm combining this into one. Here I was able to split it out into a select and then offset it this way. I could have put this on one line. In this case, I'm simply saying go to range A1, go to the end of A1. That's going to take me to A7, correct? Then I'm going to say now offset it by 1. That's going to take me to A8. And then it's going to go to the interior, which is the background color, and color it red. So let's get this work. We'll start right here. So won't be in that cell. It's the wrong key. Okay. So we're going. xlDown. This should take you to A7. It did. Now it says put the word end after the active cell. It did. See? Now this says go to the end. Oh no, I can't do this because I'm already at the end. See it? This is added to the list. So if I did this, it's going to put it here. It's going to format this cell. See it? Because where's the end of the A1? It's going to be A8 now. Because there's already something in there. See it? So I can't offset at this point because if I offset it, then it's going to take it down 1. It's going to do 9. So watch, it'll do 9 right now. I'll just do it so you can see it. See, it did 9. Because this was the end of the cell here. And then it said offset it by 1 and go down there. So in that case, we have to actually take off this offset and just say go to the last cell. This says go to the A1, go to the end, which happens to be A8, and then format it to be red. So we'll take this. Now this is going to mess it up because this is going to kind of, let me take that out in order to get this to work. Let's get it to work now. Okay, so there is my xlDown. Great. It identified A7. Now it's going to put the word end 1 cell after it, which it did. Then I'm going to run the command again and to say go to the very last cell and format to be red. So this is important because this is where when you start dealing with large databases, you may want to put some data entry in here, but you want to put it at the end of the database. So you can go through and search through the database to find the very last record in the database. Then you want to add information to that last record. And so that is where this would come into play. And you want to be able to offset. This is where it really starts becoming very, very useful in terms of entering stuff in database and finding and locating things in the database and then going through and doing it there. So let's run through a little exercise. So current region, I think we have a little exercise down here. We can play around with this a little bit. There's several other things in there, as you can see, but here's it. Okay, so what this is going to say is we're going to format this, open up pivot, and we're going to format these columns different colors. But we don't know where the bottom is. So we have to use the code to find the bottom. And then once we find the bottom, we can format it all the way to the bottom of the list. And we're going to run it multiple times, and we're going to find it several times. So you can do 2 or 3 of them. You don't have to do that many. But so let's open up our pivot 1. We have that closed already. Open pivot 1. I just pivot, sorry. And see, I want to select this. I want to format all of this all the way to the bottom. It could grow from time to time. So we just want to select it and format it one at a time. So we're going to go to our DB. And I can cut and paste this code out so I could kind of, I want to have to go back and rewrite it all, because we kind of just did that right here. So now we're going to go over to our pivot file here. Here's 2, format, personal. Here's our pivot right there. There's no module yet. So we insert that module. I'll paste this in here so we have it. So I need to put my sub, my test, and put this around like this. All right, so here's some code that I can use as just as an example. So I won't have to go back, keep referring back to the book. Okay, so what I'm looking for is I'm going to start in cells A4, and I'm going to find the bottom. I want to select everything from here to the bottom. So that would be this. We had that in the other code, which was range. And this would be double quote A4 to, and then I want to go from A4 to the bottom. So this is going to select everything from A4 to the bottom, dot select. So you're going to have to say everything from, oh, I messed it up here. So this is going to be range A1, and then you say end, xlDown, so this here is A4, and this is going to be the end of A4. Sorry, got to change that to A4. So this is going to be the end of A4. So from A4 to the end of A4, we want to select that stuff. Then once we select it, oops, oh, there's got to be a dot here. Once we select it, then we can simply say selection dot interior dot color equals, and we say RGB, find a lighter color like an aqua or something like that. Maybe that's a little lighter color. There's a beige, the beige. And that's going to select A4 and do that. Then we can do that with, I should test it to see if it's going to work first. But we can do that with B, and everything else is going to remain the same. I can change this to antique white. See what that does. Get rid of this chunk. So this is going to go from A4 to the end. Select it. Now we could actually put all of this right in place of the select. Let's do this one in that manner. So I can just put it straight and do a direct format to it. So this is going to do this directly to it without actually selecting it. It'll just format it. But it doesn't know where the end is. The end could grow from time to time. So let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, so there's my first one. It did select it, right? Got it. Found the end of it, right? And then it's going to format it. There should be a beige on there, I guess. Let's see what that is. Yeah, it's kind of a beige color, right? And this is going to do it directly without selecting it. So you can do the direct command or the indirect. Sometimes the indirect is nice during the development process because you can see whether the command is going to work first before you would actually do something to it. And so you don't really know what's going to happen to it if you didn't identify the cell first properly. And then we can go through and copy this code down and continue to do these other columns. So that takes care of, that's what this is. Then we see the code upside down. You see I'm actually doing it direct on each one. All right, so this, we're going to start using these in combination as we go forward. So we're going to need understand the basic code of this, the range commands, the xlDown, the offsets, because we're going to use this to kind of develop our code as we start doing looping and stuff like this. We want to be able to see what we're doing and manipulate and move certain places and make certain changes to certain sheets. Okay, so this one is, oh, there's a test property. Let's move on to the next chapter, if that's okay with you guys. You have any questions on that? We'll come back to that. We're going to be doing some more with those properties above, the offset and the xlDown.